Hey guys, it's Nicole over at Two Chicks Quilting here in Ganado, Texas for our Tuesday tips and tricks with two chicks. I have to think about it every single time because I get so tongue-tied. You try saying that 3 times really fast and tell me you don't turn to mush. Tips and tricks with two chicks at 2 p.m. I know I'm a couple seconds late, so let's go ahead and get started. Today I wanted to talk to you just a little bit about our cutting mats and our rulers that we use for cutting. Now, most cutting mats, I say most, some don't, but if they have a dual purpose side, it's usually in 2 different colors. For this one, Martelli, we have a yellow and we have a purple side. Now, what are the purposes of having 2 colors or 2-sided mat? Yes, we could say, I'm one of those that don't change my blade very often in my cutter, and I am gouging it because it's self-healed as much as it can so I can flip it over and use the other side. Yes, that is true, but please change your blade. We don't want the gouges in our mat. But the other part is that it is yellow and it's purple, or it's gray and it's black, and it's 2 different colors purposes on when we're using fabric. If we're using a dark fabric, of course, we can use on the yellow. If we're using a light fabric, we can use on the purple to give it that contrast color and give us the lines for the colors working with those fabrics. So I wanted to point that out. The second thing I wanted to point out is when I am using my cutting mat. Now, there are 10 millions and 1 different ways to use your cutting mat, to use your rulers. This is just a tip for you guys. When I'm using my cutting mat and I'm cutting big increments and everything like that, I use my mat. When I'm working with smaller cuts and smaller increments, I cut with my ruler. Yes, there's lines and numbers on our rulers just like there is on our mat. So our rulers aren't just for a straight edge. It is also for getting that perfect 2-inch square, to get that perfect 2.5-inch cut. So yes, you know, we do have our cutting mat that we can cut on, but we also do have our rulers that can get those cuts for us also. So I just wanted to point that out to make sure that instead of using your mat over and over again, if you want to get really precise cuts, measure with your ruler and not your mat if you're doing the smaller cuts. Another thing that's very important is your rulers. Right now I have 2 Creative Grids rulers on here. We like Creative Grids. We like a lot of other rulers too, but today I'm just mentioning these. They are USA made. We do have them in stock, and these are the rulers that we like to use a lot. They do come with non-slip grips on the back already in multiple places, so it's easier for it to grip the fabric and not slide around as much. But just in case you need a little bit extra, which I will say you can't have too much extra, we do have the non-slip heart grips from the Gypsy Quilter. And so they come just like this with a heart and then a small heart in the middle. And so that's actually 2 stickers right there. So you do want to put those on the back of your rulers. And you can use the big hearts, you can use the little hearts, it's whatever you want. And I say just spread them out a little bit, especially if you're going to be using your rulers for not just a straight edge, but for precise cutting. The reason why I say put a little bit more on there because it's harder for the rulers to move. Yes, they have that slip grip already, but getting that extra grip keeps it from sliding. The most important thing I will say whenever you are piecing a quilt is the cutting. That is the very first step, and that's the very most important thing. If you have a little bit off of cut at 1/4 of an inch, you're going to be 1/4 of an inch off when you're piecing. So definitely make sure that your cutting is good. I also like these ruler stickers. It comes in 3 different colors and it has arrows in it. So let me give you a little tidbit about these stickers and about what we can use these arrows for. So I'm talking about precise cutting. I definitely like to use these because they are reusable. You can put them on your mat. You can put them on your rulers. But for instance, I have them on my mat right now, and I have, let me move this over. I have it on my 1-inch mark, and then I have it on my 19-inch mark. So if you do a whole lot of half-yard cuttings, and you're putting a groove into your 18-inch mark because you're doing it over and over again, well, then put this little arrow at the 1-inch, put this little arrow at the 19-inch, and so that you know that this is your start and this is your stop, and that is a 1/2 yard. So these do peel back up and you can move them. So if you're doing your big cutting, that's why I like to say, you know, use it on your mat. Karen was doing a quarter of a, or not a quarter of a yard because that's pretty easy. It was like a weird cut. Let's just say it was a eighth of a yard, so 4.5 inches. And she was like 4.5, 1, 2, 3, okay, 9, 1, 2, and counting like that. So if you're doing a whole lot of cutting where it's going to be, say you need 10 6-inch strips, I know that's easy, but you can put your arrows here so you don't have to count in your head, and you can do, I'm cutting here, 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 so that does count down on the arrows that you can make. So that's why I like these stickers. You can put exactly where you should be cutting in order to make those cuts, so you're not calculating or you're not lining it up with the wrong line on the mat. Autumn, do we have any questions so far? Perfect. Okay, so I also have it on my ruler right here. I especially like this for when I'm cutting my 2.5-inch strips for my binding. I also like it if I'm doing a sashing in a quilt or borders in a quilt and it's saying cut 3.5, cut 3 5/8. So those weird increments, I really, really like it, especially if I'm using my mat or if I'm using it on my ruler, because I can mark exactly what I'm lining up the edge of my fabric with. And did y'all see that? I was put my ruler down and I went to go like move it to go cut and to line it up, and it wouldn't even move because I have my non-slips on there and it wouldn't let me move my fabric. So I have my arrow on here, and I can also put an arrow further up, and that gets me my 2.5-inch mark, so I can cut, and then I can move it and line it up, and cut and move it and line it up. So that's why I like to have these arrows, because it's telling me exactly what line I'm going to line it up with without getting confused and having a miscut on there. So that is what my tutorial is for you guys today. Another thing that I want to point out is, you know, I was talking about using your ruler instead of using your mat to cut to get that precise, the precise cut and measurement. I had mentioned earlier that sometimes we like to use our mats a little too long instead of getting another one, and we do have those gouges. So, you know, say that we do that quarter of a yard cut over and over again. We have a huge gouge in it. Is it truly a quarter of a yard anymore? Probably not. We're probably cutting a quarter of a yard and 1/8 of an inch or something like that. So when we have our rulers, depending on how big they are, they come in all different sizes. We can line this fabric up any part of our mat, but still get 4 inches, because we're lining the edge of the fabric up with the edge of our ruler, or the number of our 4 of our ruler. So that's why I was saying we get really good precise cuts when we actually use our measurement on our ruler instead of our mats. Now, you know, like I said, you do get true measurements on your mats if it's a nice, good, clean mat and not have huge gouges in it. And then using your stickers, you get the precise number on where you need to. I love using these, like I said, if it's a 5/8 or 7/8 or just a weird cut increment, because you can put exactly what mark it's supposed to be at. So that's what I have for you today. I use the Gypsy non-slip heart grips. They're $6, and then I also use our ruler stickers. They come in 3 different colors for $8. Yes.
Miss Phyllis Stafford wants to know if she can see the rulers used on light and dark fabric.
Light and dark, yeah, of course. So like I said, this is our Creative Grids ruler. So that's going to be on your dark fabric. Can they see that? Do you want to take the phone off? And yeah. So you can see the contrast on that. And then this is a light piece of fabric. Okay. And so with Creative Grids, I'm glad that you pointed that out. They do have dash lines all throughout the ruler to carry it down. So it's just not marks here, and then the next mark, and the next mark. It does have like a little dotted line that goes down. Now it is white, so you know on your lighter fabrics it's hard to see, but on the darker fabrics it stand out, and vice versa. And then the mat that I'm working on is the Martelli mat.
Okay. And then Cindy Aaron is asking about the snowman kit.
Yep.
It is a kit.
Yes, we do have a kit. It is our Mr. Frosty's. It is a 10 sister kit. In that kit, you have everything to make it, including, do we have the backing in that, or is it just the binding?
I think just the top and binding.
Okay, top and binding, and then your panel to make it. But it's called Mr. Frosty, and that is in Comment Sold and our website. Yep, so on our website or on Comment Sold, that is also there. So that's what I got for you today, guys. And if you have any other questions, just give us a call and we can help you out. We will be back tomorrow at 4 p.m. for Wacky Wednesday. And I think I have a pretty good Wacky Wednesday for y'all. So y'all want to tune in. We'll see you later, guys. Bye.